your theories can go one of two directions. I think, and I'll get into kind of what the official theories are and then kind of what family and friends and the broader internet thinks.
Okay.
I think you could go into two realms of what happened. One, Jim or those two guys are directly involved in her disappearance. Foul play with literally the only people that saw her.
That's where my mind immediately goes.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
The other route you can go is something very sudden happened to her on the trail that caused her to go off the trail, within 45 seconds of Jim seeing her. So getting into what law enforcement, these are just questions they raised. One of their biggest questions was she ever even up on the mountain? There is no one else other than Jim who claims she was there. Because they haven't been able to talk to the two guys, and the construction workers never saw her there. So, that's a good, did something happen to her before she got to the mountain? And this would go back to the foul play thing, that Jim was involved. Something happened to her and Jim on the way there. He covered it up, and then he hiked up the mountain and came back down to make it look like she went missing. But the funny thing about that is what happened to her? Like, I looked away for 45 seconds and looked back and she's gone. Like, that sounds just too unbelievable. I mean, Why would you, if you killed somebody and were trying to cover it up, why would you say that? That makes you seem guilty.
Now, hold on. We just had a case where that basically occurred.
The marathon runner?
No, the little boy in Colorado.
Bizup?
Yeah, Bobby Bizup.
Was it Bizup?
Bizup or Bizup.
Yeah.
Bobby Bizup, where it was, he turned around for 10 seconds, he was gone, and then they later assumed that he was being sexually assaulted by the camp counselors, and it became pretty obvious that they probably killed him.
Well, they found his skull.
Yeah, they found his skull then, but they didn't link it with the camp counselors until later because there were other child abuses that were uncovered. So we kind of called that one when we did the show before we learned that new stuff. So I look at it as I don't want to blame him right away, but if he's like a sociopath, he can lie with conviction.
Yeah.
So I look at it as you're the only person who went up there. That's why I was very surprised when he's definitely just a witness. And I'm like, that's usually the last person saw him alive and the person who was with him in the wilderness becomes a suspect automatically.
Right.
You got to kind of prove that you weren't connected because that's a pretty crazy story.
And that just seems like kind of a far-fetched...
I was just looking up cave systems going along with is there a major cave network up there? And it's actually very minimal in the Montana area.
Yeah.
Compared to the Midwest.
Yeah.
Or Florida.
Look at Wisconsin.
Yeah. So I was did she step off somewhere and fall down this little, I don't know. All right, keep going.
So, one of their other questions they had was, were the two other males that saw them involved some way? And they, from everything I read, never were able to find them or talk to them. And that is a big hole in the investigation. They probably really, really wanted to talk to those two guys, to see, what was Barbara's condition when you saw her on the top of the mountain? Did she seem distressed? Was she...
Now, just to recap, when they were coming back down, was she ahead or behind? When he was because they said they were kind of separated.
Her and Jim?
Yeah.
She was 20 or 30 feet ahead of him. Down, a little further down the trail.
Okay, so he would coming up to where she was.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the way back down.
And where did they see those two guys?
So the construction crew saw them down on the road heading up there earlier in the morning, and Jim and Barbara were hitting the top of the mountain when the two guys were already up there.
So they would have run into each other. Did Jim mention that he saw them?
Yeah, he relayed.
Yeah.
So he was the one that told investigators that they ran into the two guys at the top of the mountain with their dog.
So the two guys were up there. I'm just recapping for myself and for listeners. So they were all up there together at the overlook.
Yeah.
And then Jim and Barbara left to go down.
Jim and Barbara stayed, and the two other guys left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he make a mention in that when he came out, if their car was gone?
No.
Or there was no mention in it at all, just, hey, that we ran into him? And they left ahead?
Yeah, there was a lot of things left to be answered.
Okay.
but I don't know.
Can you kind of get what I'm starting to set up here?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I want to get more information. Like, okay, if he was behind, were they behind him? So they were ahead of the group. So if they were on the trail, quote unquote, waiting, she would have ran into them first, but by like 20 feet.
Yeah.
And on this very noisy shale rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean 20 feet's not.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
And they stayed up there for like 30 minutes. So theoretically, the guys were already well down the mountain,
almost halfway back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, actually, going down, they may have been 3/4. Like going downhill is like the easiest part. So
yeah,
it's uphill one way. It's down. They would have been able to like double time it.
Yeah, and they were. I mean, young. Described as young, fit guys. They probably got down the mountain pretty quick.
Yeah, in a half hour, they might have been out to their car already.
Maybe. So, before I get into maybe what I think, I have a comment here from someone who lives in the area or lived in the area, and they kind of talk about this overall area and why they think it's just a strange disappearance. So this person goes on to say, I have lived in the Victor Stevensville area twice, and my wife grew up there. The first place she took me in the route was the Bear Creek Overlook. That's a place that the locals go to hike. Out-of-town folks hike the Blodgett Creek or the St. Mary's Peak. I also don't see how anyone, especially someone familiar with the area, could get lost there. The terrain is very steep, and all the drainages into the main valley run due east-west. That, coupled with the relatively thin vegetation, just makes getting lost unlikely. The terrain is very steep and cliffy. So a fall would not be outside the realm of possibility, but I don't see how law enforcement or SAR officials wouldn't have found someone's remains lying on top of all that bare rock at the base of the cliffs. Throw in the fact that dogs smelled nothing, and it seems plausible that she never made it to the trailhead. The two hikers were probably college students or locals who just don't want to get involved with law enforcement. There's also a lot of that kind of mentality in the area. People can be very distrustful of the authorities in that neck of the woods. My guess would be that the husband, cousin, and friend were all involved, and her remains are probably on the east side of the valley. Just a guess, though. So this person who lives in the area thinks that all of the family members are involved in her disappearance.
That's like projection. I feel like he's done this before. He's like, oh, it's probably this because that's what people do around here.
So that kind of just gives you a local's perspective on what they think of the area. So a couple other possibilities that I gleaned from various people off the wild internet. One person thought that maybe she had to go to the bathroom and didn't want to say anything to Jim, so she snuck away for a couple of minutes to go behind a bush that wasn't real close, and maybe she got what they call turned around in the forest and did not know which way she came from and walked in the wrong direction. And in that process, she got completely lost and fell. I kind of find that theory, if she's experienced in the area, I don't see how that would happen. And
I kind of agree with both of you.
Yeah.
Like, so far, that's the most plausible thing that happened, but I also agree with you that she's not like a city slicker that's never done this before. So, like, the odds of that happening are super low, but
yeah.
So far, I'm thinking about is either. Okay, keep going. I'm thinking. I'll wait.
Another theory was that she wanted to go missing and just walked off. Her husband had recently just had a heart attack, and there's no indication that they were unhappy. He's a retired U.S. Air Force colonel, and he managed a business that provided security for banks. So they seemed financially pretty well off, and there was no indication of that, no indication that she was suicidal. So, I mean, that's a theory. One interesting theory someone proposed, which kind of made me think a little, was did Jim try to make a sexual advance on Barbara when she refused? He killed her. So, like, they went on to say, I didn't put all the detail from this theory, but they went on to say that maybe he, guys, when they, think a woman's in love with them or, have feelings for a woman, will do crazy things.
Yeah.
And maybe he misconstrued, hey, let's go to the Overlook, as like more than it was.
Okay.
And so maybe like
he looked at it as like a window or an opportunity to like.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe on the drive up there or somewhere along the trail, he tried to make an advance and she kind of like, no, get out of here. And it, pushed him over the edge and he killed her and then disposed. In that theory, he would probably have to do it before getting to the trailhead because that construction crew was down there. He would have to go through the construction site to get to his car.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that theory kind of makes a little sense to me. I mean, I don't have any indication that...
I wonder if he only mentioned the two guys in the trail after it was told to him that construction people have, or if he willingly gave up that information. I mean, that would make a big difference if he didn't mention it, and they're like, oh, the construction guys saw these things. Oh, yeah, we saw him at the top, too.
Yeah,
it's like, how come you didn't remember that?
I don't know the order of which.
Yeah,
I don't have any doubt that the construction crew is telling the truth. Why would they? They have no reason to lie. I mean, they were just putting a culvert in the road.
Yeah,
and that's a good point. Maybe he didn't know about the two guys, or maybe those two guys never went to the Overlook, and he just said they were there.
Yeah,
I mean, we got to assume he's innocent because the investigators. So I don't know. What do you think happened?
Oh, jeez.
I don't think it was animal attack. They would have.
Yeah, I don't think it was animal. Based on like looking at that area, there's no water in the area. Like it's very high up. Like there really isn't a reason why a lot of animals would be there. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but I'm just hiking in different spots. Whenever you're in areas like that, it's pretty devoid of anything but like birds and small animals.
Yeah, I don't think it was a fall.
And she had her gun.
I don't think it was a fall because, like the one person who lived there said, anywhere around this trail, if she fell, would probably have been spotted by search and rescue officials.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always a chance that they're not going to find you, but Joe's zooming into the trail on.
Oh, I got to share it, but yeah, there's not, look at this. Like, it's not aggressive anywhere where you're
if she maybe fell in that little valley right there.
This is the road.
Oh, that's the road.
Yeah, the trail went like here.
Okay.
Like from here. So like this is the street.
Yeah.
She would have gone a distance greater than probably the length of the trail to get to any meaningful cliff. Like
on the other side, there is some pretty rough terrain. I mean,
on the overlook, but they said they're on their way down. This is the overlook. So like you could fall off the overlook.
But they would find you.
Yeah. Maybe not, but
I mean, the vegetation's very sparse. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's not like she'd go all the way to the bottom. It's not that steep.
Yeah,
it's definitely too steep. Like you can't walk down this, but it's not like a sheer face where it's like 400 feet straight down to a riverbed. No, it's like okay. But yeah, on the sides of the trail going up to it, definitely not. Look at that.
Yeah,
it's flat.
So I think you can rule out not 100%, but animal attack or injury, and the fact that she went in July. There was no mention of bad weather or anything, so I think the weather was pretty good that day.
Yeah, and there's enough trees and stuff. It's like heat shouldn't play too big of an issue.
Yeah, and she would stay to the trails, so if something happened like a heat stroke, you would assume that law enforcement would find her pretty close to the trail.
Yeah, like you can see the trail through the trees in the satellite. That's how sparse they are.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's some kind of foul play before she got to the trailhead, and she never actually made it to the mountain.
Okay, and that's why. Well, you can't say he made up the two-guy witness thing.
No, because the construction workers.
But it's almost like
without their statements, we have no clue if they actually were on the top of the mountain.
They're like a key witness.
They're the key witness.
Yeah, to like verify if they're there. Like, because I even want to say like, oh, what if he ran it and they killed them too?
Yeah,
like that just seems far-fetched.
Maybe he did. We don't have any record of them.
If the construction workers said they saw him go up,
yeah,
did he push her off the overlook and they walked up on it and he had to kill them? But they're young, fit guys. Like, could they not take? Could they both? And with a dog?
Yeah, and then
see that's too far-fetched. I don't think so. Like, we have to assume these people really exist. They were seen by, he corroborated what the construction worker said.
Yeah.
So 2 fit dudes, a dog with their car.
Yeah.
That went on the same trail. Left before they did, if we're believing Jim now.
Yeah.
And then they're on their way back. So, like, the only thing I'm saying, like, okay, what if, like, they waited ahead until Barbara came back and they kidnapped her, but 20 feet, and with the shale rock, you'd hear that commotion or...
And they'd have to go through that construction site to get to their car.
Yeah, with a lady.
With a lady that they just kidnapped, and the construction workers are in on it now. Like, they would have stopped it.
Or, like...
Or are the construction workers...
This is where I would love to know if Jim said, like, he saw that truck on the way out.
Yeah, that
because
I don't know.
Because if they got her and, like, went off trail and did unspeakable things that would be terrible, like... I like think about that, like if they went up ahead and she was really a little bit farther than Jim's remembering. Let's assume that like memory again can be a tricky thing.
And measuring distance on an uneven trail.
Yes.
20 feet could be 50 feet.
Yeah, I mean, but it's enough where they snatched her and pulled her off trail and he only looked around for 15 minutes and went down. Like I'm leaning, as a plausible thing, I'm leaning like those 2 guys were not good guys.
Yeah.
And potentially abducted her. And she wasn't as close to Jim as he had stated.
Maybe. I mean, he would have made, wouldn't he have heard her scream or something? Or
I mean, it's let's go crazy. Like they hit her over the head, knock her out,
yeah,
and drag her off trail and like hide under some thicket. I don't know. But like, why?
Yeah, why?
So like, it's not even a plot. I'm just thinking of like the most plausible of all the things not being.
And
plausible.
she's armed, so
yeah, they would have to like surprise her.
Yeah. And in a not a very thickly, vegetation area.
Yeah, it's not like they can just disappear right off trail. You'd have to like go somewhere.
That's why I think something happened to her before she got to the mountain.
And you think Jim's involved?
I mean, I think Jim has to be involved.
Outside of my theory, which I think is crazy,
yeah,
I would have to agree with you.
Because just because dogs didn't pick up a scent doesn't mean that much. We've learned over the years that. It's not always a surefire thing that, search dogs will pick a scent up, especially if a search area has been like stomped around and, by a bunch of searchers already.
Yeah, but to that point though, there's no rain and stuff. And the biggest thing that we learned is like water kills, like, cause it's shedded skin cells is I forgot who we talked to, that guy who's an expert on it. And it's the shed skin cells. And they said that's the biggest issue is if it gets washed away.
Yeah. Well, we don't know the experience of the search and rescue dog teams either. There's a lot of factors.
Yeah.
I don't think dogs getting no scent it's I mean, it makes the theory that she didn't get to the mountain more plausible.
I'm starting to lean way more that way, actually.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, the only witness to her ever going there is Jim.
Yeah.
Like
the construction workers weren't on the site yet.
Yeah, and what kind of makes the story seem more like everyone was involved is like there's construction workers there, and then there's the other 2 guys, and the construction workers saw those guys, and Jim saw those guys. It's kind of like all these things happening, but the reality is no one ever saw Jim arrive.
To go Hollywood, and very crazy, did Jim hire the 2 guys to kill Barbara?
I don't think he even needs to do that.
No.
Yeah, like...
We're just going off the deep end here because this is such a puzzling disappearance.
You are like going to push that thing. Like
the deep end.
Fetch.
I didn't even...
It's so fetch.
It's so fetch.
We should add that to our repertoire. We'll have our normal theories, then our off the deep end theory.
Off the deep end
every time.
theories.
This is a new thing you did, Mike. Good job.
Okay, good.
It's a new thing we're doing. We're gonna do the off. So let's go off the deep end at the end.
Okay.
The last theory will be
add it to the show notes.
Yeah, it'll literally be a thing we do. They'll like involve like conspiracy, UFO, like as crazy as like
off the deep end. I like it.
We'll call it off the deep end.
Off the deep end.
We're there already because we're all out.
I don't know. I mean, this is insane.
I think we might be.
Yeah. I think a plausible.
I'm with you. I think Jim did something either on the way there or there.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have done it there and dumped the body.
Yeah, because the construction workers weren't at the site yet when they arrived.
Yeah, so no one is able to verify that they both arrived for real, except for Jim.
Yeah.
And he's not a witness,
and
or he's not a suspect.
All we know is that she left their house at 8:30 or 9 in the morning, and Carl saw her leave. That's it. And she was with Jim. And that theory about him making an advance on her kind of is growing on me a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to slander his name or anything, but
and we already that ship has sailed.
But I mean, it's very suspicious if you're the only person that saw somebody that mysteriously vanished like this.
Yeah, I feel like that's right. That's where I was questioning. Like, I feel like they let him off a little too easy. Like, sorry if he's innocent, but like, if you're the only person, guess what? You're going to get your ass questioned.
Yeah,
pretty hardcore, because that doesn't add up.
No, the whole. I looked away for 45 seconds, and she's gone. Like,
let's flip it over again. What a terrible story to make up if you're not guilty. If you're guilty,
that's
of
what's
something.
Puzzling about this.
Yeah, because if he was really guilty, he'd probably have a better story. Like, she decided to go down
unless it
early,
was,
and I wanted to stay, and it was like a half hour.
Unless it was a crime of passion, and he didn't have time to come up with a.
But reality,
story.
Like, it's a real simple story. Like, if you're gonna say she was ahead of you, make it bit more than 20 feet.
Yeah.
If you're guilty, like, I feel like even like someone in the throes of that passion that just did something terrible and maybe he's going crazy will be like, she left earlier than me. I don't know. It was a while. Like,
yeah. Why wouldn't you say like, oh, she left the trail to go to the bathroom and I never saw her again?
See, that's where I'm trying to think of, like, he's not guilty because he'd come up with a way better story.
Yeah,
or he's that dumb. Or I don't know, but I feel like he'd come up with a way better story.
If that story is true, then what the hell happened to her? Like,
yeah, that's where I'm saying I wonder if he's misrepresenting the actual time and distance.
Yeah,
if like because he's okay, like this realm, he's not guilty. He's probably feeling like crap.
Yeah,
it's his friend's wife. He's supposed to be like the guy in charge. Like okay. I don't want to sound misogynistic, but like a lot of guys feel that way. Like if you're with a woman, you want to protect her. Like she had the gun, she could probably protect him.
Yeah.
But just as a guy instinct, so he's got to go back to his friend and be like,
I lost your wife.
I can't find her. She might be dead. Like,
and then tell that story.
Yeah.
Like,
and
I looked away for 45 seconds
exactly.
And she's gone. Like what?
So that's where it could have been like, I only looked away for a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know how people like say it, but it could have been like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. So like, was it like 5 minutes, or maybe he went to the bathroom or whatever?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, she went ahead. I was just doing something for 30 seconds, 40 seconds. And it was only 20 feet and she was gone. Was it actually 150 feet in 5 minutes?
Yeah.
No, and that could make the difference of, you know, if those two guys abducted her.
Yeah.
If it's 5 minutes, 150 feet, maybe he wouldn't hear a commotion. He wouldn't hear that type of thing. And they're running off trail and he doesn't know. And it was 5 minutes is a long time to move into another spot and hunker down.
Yeah. The only thing is, based on all of the descriptions from the construction workers, neither of the guys seemed like the kind that would, abduct her or kill her or anything.
So they interacted with them.
Yeah, they said that the two guys walked through the construction site and like chatted with them. Like,
okay,
I think if you're like two serial killers, you're probably not going to like stop and talk to a bunch of construction workers.
If you're a serial killer, you typically aren't with somebody. They're like the profile of them, like they're by themselves. They're antisocial. Like there's a lot of things that you're not going to have your dog and your buddy with you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think the two guys. I think it's unfortunate that they have never come forward to tell what happened.
I feel like it's like key witness stuff. Like
maybe they're listening and they could give us the exclusive.
Yeah, if you hiked the Beaver Creek Trail, Bear Creek Trail Overlook Trailhead
on July 18th of 2007.
Yeah, and there was a marathon in the area of Montana in the Bitterroot Mountains. And you randomly listening to the show, please call that number. You can do the Wisconsin accents and give us all the details of what they were never able to find.
So yeah, to wrap this one up,
off the deep end.
Oh yeah, off the deep end. I think he hired the two guys to kill her and take her body away.
What's the motive? Why?
I don't know. I have no clue. I think it more likely is a crime of passion. He had feelings for her and made an advance on her. She rebuffed it, and he got like into a fit of rage and like for a split second lost it and killed her. Okay. And she didn't have time to, use her firearm because she wasn't expecting that from a family friend. And this happened before they got to the trailhead. So he did something with her body and then ended up going to the trailhead anyways to cover up what happened. He went up the mountain, came back down, acted like
followed the protocol of what they were going to do.
Like went up there, whatever, and then came down, talked to construction workers, to kind of try to cover up what happened.
Okay.
Because it literally, his description of what happened makes zero sense. No one outside of all the paranormal theories disappears that quickly on a well-groomed trail.
Yeah, that quick. The closest one besides the Bobby Buys Up, which we found out was not legit.
Yeah,
was the dude on the mountain but it was like a half hour, and he went to another campsite. Remember, like turned the corner, but that was a long amount of time.
Yeah.
So, I think. See, even my most plausible one is his timing was off. The disappearance is still completely unexplainable.
Yeah.
I feel like off the deep end, his timing was off, and she was abducted by those two people.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my off the deep end, because I don't think that's what really happened. I think,
and that's why they never came forward.
Or maybe the off the deep end was rock people, and she's absorbed in the mountain.
Or the construction guys were in on it too. Yeah, they're all in on it.
Yeah, they're all in on it, Jerry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We say this every episode.
No, I feel like in some episodes we're like, hey, I bet it was this.
It could have been something, but this literally...
Yeah, it's because the guy was there.
Yeah.
And he does seem like suspect number one, and he also doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems like you tell me a story, two people go into a remote area, one comes out, the other one doesn't, I'd be like, oh yeah, they killed him.
That's immediately what I thought. That's I'm like, he's not a suspect. I'm like, are they a terrible police department?
But then when you hear his story, you're like, if you killed somebody and you're trying to cover this up, that's the last story you would use, because it sounds...
It's a terrible... It
sounds so crazy.
Yeah, it's
it
a
sounds
terrible
so crazy,
alibi.
It has to be true.
Yeah, it's a terrible alibi.
So part of me really thinks that...
Or he's that smart, and he's like, if I tell him this story, they'll know it's not me, because what a dumb story to tell people.
I mean, yeah, now we're like layers and layers and layers.
It's off the deep end. I think UFO picked her up.
I mean, I don't know.